Neptune, the outer planet responsible for this archetypal feeling of universal love, divine love, and also the shadow of illusion, stations direct on December 10th at 4:23 a.m. Pacific time at 29 degrees of Pisces. This is it, you all. This is a change of an age as Neptune finishes its run through Pisces, which started in 2011 and basically kicked off the spiritual world, making it go viral, making all the things that we have now, even astrology, go viral. And it will move into Aries at the 0-degree point of Aries on January 26th. So between December 10th and January 26th, we are in the chrysalis, the void space. Neptune at 29 degrees Pisces is the void space. It is the liminal between ages, and giving us a chance for our embodiment, for our consciousness to catch up to what it wants to bring us for another 14 years in Aries. It's going to be a completely different signature, bringing completely different themes and gifts and shadows to our world. Welcome. My name is Kenlyn, and I love to look at archetypal astrology as a way to support us in the big picture. Where are we going? Why are we here? What does it all mean? And so today we're going to dive into this retrograde to direct on December 10th and what that might mean for us. And we're going to talk about the light side of Neptune as well as the shadow side of Neptune. And the same for this Neptune in Aries. Now, it takes Neptune 165 years to go around the zodiac. So we will never see in our lifetime Neptune in Pisces again. It was indeed a very spiritual, special time because Neptune's home sign is Pisces. And now it's going into Aries, which is completely different energetics than the Piscean dissolution, mysticism, oneness that Neptune is so congruent with. So welcome to this ride. We are on a big ride as we shift over from 2025 to 2026. And for some of you who know, I have been saying that February 2026 is the time frame when Neptune at 0 degrees will meet up with Saturn at 0 degrees to form a conjunction, which many believe this is the threshold crossing into our new world. Yes, we've had Pluto in Aquarius, but all these outer planets who are slower moving are now joining in the change of our entire world. Like, we don't even know what this will bring. The last time that Neptune was in Aries was when the Industrial Revolution kicked off. It really changed the age. It's a long transit, so it has the ability to completely change how we see and think about things. And this Aries signature brings some things to worry about and some things to focus our attention on so that we are forewarned not to step into the shadow frequency of Neptune. So let's go into the light side of Neptune, or the positive side of Neptune, and focus on what it's here to bring. One of them is spiritual transcendence, the connection to the divine, the sacred, the numinous. So you can see why it was at home in Pisces. There was this oceanic feeling of oneness. And indeed, so many people awakened during this 2011 to 2025 because of the mass consciousness of spirituality, of mysticism, of awakening. There brings with it a sense of faith, hope, and spiritual aspiration. And there also was some idea of ego dissolution. So dark night of the soul, we talked about a lot, because there was a sense that in order to ascend, we must die. We must die. We must dissolve. We must dissolve the self that we think we are. There was also this creative and imaginative spirit to Neptune because it is responsible for the arts, the imagination, poetry, aesthetics, beauty, dreams, symbolism, film, music, dance, and the flow of image and the realm of the mythic. a lot of archetypal astrology. Indeed, what I'm doing right now, which is archetypal astrology for the planet Neptune. That was more popular in consciousness from 2011 to now. We can take it with us because all growth is included and transcended, but it won't be the focal point. It's now inside of us. It's who we are, and we get to focus on it and choose it. There is also kind of a spiritual idealism with Neptune, this idea that we can make a better world, that there was a utopian way, like the idea of new earth, that we can imagine a way of being where everything is living in coherence, in accordance with right relationship, and that things flourish and are abundant because that's the natural order of things. Like Neptune gives us that utopian view of that. And we're also able to perceive the subtleties because Neptune, being an outer planet, is talking about a high vibrational field where it's subtle, and the quieter and more still and the more contained that you are, you can experience the subtlety. There's also a concept of the unity and dissolution, and that is a Piscean theme itself. So you can see how Neptune and Pisces were made for each other. That's going to be very different energy when Neptune goes into Aries. So there was this recognition of the interdependence of all beings, this concept that I am you and you are me, that there is oneness. Even if on the ground in the trenches, we didn't believe that, or it was irritating and we got triggered, there was still this sense in the zeitgeist, in the spiritual zeitgeist of unity consciousness, that there's only one thing. Everything is one thing. And there was this idea of surrendering into something greater than ourselves, and the wisdom of not being attached to the vestiges of this life, to the success or the accolades, the recognition in this life, that there was something bigger than this life. And Neptune is also the planet that reminds us that we're galactic beings, we're cosmic beings, and that, yes, we are also earthlings, but we're part of a greater family. Now, the shadow side of Neptune has to be discussed because we can see some of the shadow in our daily life. We can see that the ways that things were hidden, illusion was created, and that happened a lot in government, where governmental authorities created an illusion of things, but the reality has been starting to come out since 2020 of how things really operate. Neptune and its illusion is Maya, the dream, the actual dream itself that we're dreaming, the dream of separation. So interesting that it represents unity consciousness and at the same time the dream. It could be self-deception. It can be the denial of reality because we choose the illusion. And that things like Instagram, honestly, are vestiges of the shadow Neptune, where we see the idealization of people. Look at my beautiful life. Look at how abundant I am and how everything flows. Yeah, like we don't believe that anymore, that we've gone through the full stages of Neptune and we don't believe that anymore. We know that everyone has their shit. And if they're just not saying it, then they're trying to get us to believe something that isn't 100% true. In Neptune, we can also be really confused, obfuscated. And that's why sometimes, people ask, how do these people ever get elected into government office? Well, Neptune also obfuscates, blinds us, fogs us into a confusion where we think one thing is this, oh yeah, that's this great conspiracy and this person's our savior. No, actually it wasn't. It's in plain view and in plain sight, but when you have the fog of Neptune, you can't see it. So Neptune does a number. And like everything, it lives in this dual world. We incarnated in a dual world. Neptune is also responsible for addiction and escapism, for numbing out, for getting the F out of here because it's too intense, it's too much. Reality, I can't face it. It doesn't feel like my friend, so I'm going to try to escape and numb out and use whatever substance. It rules substance and pharmaceuticals to get out of here. It's really responsible also for the rise of plant medicine, which I think in many ways has been a super beautiful thing. Mental health capped out, like SSRIs, they found out really didn't even help until a new wave of mental health came through with plant medicine. So like most things, there's this and there's that. Neptune's also responsible for spiritual bypassing. And we see a lot of that. It's all good. It's love and light. Sure. And there's a 3D world where there's real stuff happening. And we get to hold the both and the Neptune, especially in Pisces, wants to just bypass it all and get out of here, which were a lot of the popularizations of spiritual practices that had you leave your body because this place is uncomfortable. But again, we went through the whole trajectory of Neptune, and the divine feminine came through, and she was like, you know what? No, we have to descend. We go into our bodies. We feel it. We emote it. We move it, because the divine feminine is the all. We don't need to escape it. God is here. God is now. Neptune's tricky. Neptune's also responsible for the energy of victimization and martyrdom, the martyr complex, unnecessary self-sacrifice, helplessness, feeling overwhelmed by other people's emotions or collective suffering. I mean, we've seen a lot of that in the collective as well. And it can manipulate through emotional or spiritual means. We've seen a lot of spiritual teachers fall, have we not? In this age of Aquarius, some of those Piscean teachers were seen for who they are, as really people who got bit by greed, who maybe started off with something beautiful to share and then realized that people are gullible, people are sheeple, and I can manipulate them. Total Neptune here. I mean, wow. This is like explaining our world. So the final thing I'll say too is there is this narcissism and self-absorption. And as we know, the narcissist empath matrix has been on the world stage since 2011. Like, I really didn't even hear about it until I think probably 2020 is when I started hearing about so-and-so's a narcissist, so-and-so's a narcissist, I'm an empath, they're a narcissist. And we're really uncovering this matrix of when someone is so fragmented, so wounded, that they leave their, almost like their consciousness, and they form a personality. And that personality can be really charismatic and obfuscate, confuse, have a drop of illusion. So people think they're one thing, but really behind the scenes, they are manipulative and conniving and only for themselves because they're so broken. And then that empath, that martyr, that victim comes in. I mean, we just see it all in play. So curious how that's going to evolve with Neptune moving into Aries. But now we're totally aware of it. We're onto it. We see it. And that we will not be able to unsee. We're going to move on to other things that will be our crucible. Every planet, represents, this is why I love consciousness astrology, because every planet is here for our evolution and awakening, and we're just deeply in the time for it. So if we look at Neptune in Aries and some specific things, we'll look at the light side and we'll look at the shadow side. The light side has this idealization of heroism, leadership, and personal strength, because Aries is the warrior. So we might see that there's this archetypal hero, this archetypal warrior emerge, and it fights for spiritual ideals because Neptune does represent these spiritual ideals. And this fight could be with courage and conviction. That's the light side. We could also have ecological idealism and what they call transcendental theories about the environment, like the aliveness of the world, the seeing of the planet as Gaia, as a living being. That would be really awesome. We have that in our collective consciousness now, but it's not mainstream. We still treat Gaia like trash, and that gets to change. So we might have innovative spiritual movements focusing on individual empowerment, and that goes along with this human design mutation, talking about the age of empowerment, where we really must step into a level of self-sufficiency that we haven't had before. And that has ramifications in all sorts, like food and support and relationships, like the breaking of old marriage contracts of I'll do this if you do that, like that transaction-based marriage contract. We might see spiritual warriorship and sacred activism take front and center. That might be the whole new zeitgeist of what we're talking about, like in our marketing. You might just hear that a lot. And we might have creative breakthroughs that are bold and original, because that's what Aries represents. Remember the I am. Anytime we talk about Aries, we're talking about the I am, not the we are. That's Libra. We're talking about the I am. And then you overlay this conscious awareness, this evolution, this spiritual transcendence with Neptune. So I think you already can see by now the shadows that this could create, this fanaticism, this spiritual fanaticism, this holy war, this warriorship that goes off the rails, this identification with being the hero or a messiah. Oh my goddess, new. The idealization of conflict. I mean, conflict is taking on new levels with Palantir and drones and using AI to fight and surveillance systems. So the idealization of that and creating a perfect world or a utopia where if everyone just was subject to this, this, and this, we would all work out well, where it's really nefarious and quite dark, quite dystopian. Maybe like aggressively proselytizing or forcing our beliefs on others. So, that's just a word to us, like to watch that energy inside of us, to not get so over the top on something, because Neptune is such a big energy that we think we're doing the right thing, but we're actually in delusion. And we could have rebellions and worship of rebel figures without discernment, because really Neptune is asking for discernment, learning to work with the transcendent, to work with the universal, to work with the visionary gifts while staying grounded in reality. And that's what Saturn will help with in this 0 degrees conjunction. And so let's go back to that 0 degrees of Saturn and Neptune. And so February 20th, Saturn will exactly conjunct Neptune. They both will join each other at the world axis point, 0 degrees of Aries. That is a cardinal sign. Cardinal signs are the beginning. They are the initiators. So we are being initiated into something new with both this planet of universal consciousness and love, and Saturn, the Lord of Karma, the great teacher, the one who brings our dreams and ideals into form. That's why this is such an auspicious time. Grand visionary dreams brought to life. So in this liminal space that we're in right now, as Neptune, I'm filming this when Neptune's retrograde, 29 degrees, but then he'll station direct at 29 degrees, pulling the tide out, pulling out in our consciousness what cannot go with us into the new, and becoming the zero space, becoming ready to dream a new dream. This is the highest form of it. This is the highest frequency of it. And if you want to be one of the ones that bring in the highest frequency, because, there's a tipping point that if so many of us bring in this highest frequency, then like the 100th monkey, everybody else follows suit. That's what I'm going for. That's why I'm doing this channel. Really, that's why. So if you want to vibrate at that level, you empty out, you clean out, you use that period through the solstice with that 3-eye atlas coming in from another realm, from the Sagittarian part of the cosmos, coming close to Earth on the new moon, in the darkness, seeding, new possibilities, new awarenesses, new visions that we don't even know yet what they are. We don't know what they are. If you think you know, you don't know. That's not it, because we haven't crossed over. We need the personal planets to get involved. We need Venus, we need Mars, we need Mercury to come back around to enlighten us in our minds, in our hearts, in our embodiment. So there's a possibility of the structure being given to these forms. Like we'll have the download on how to do it. Do you know that astrology was downloaded? Human design was downloaded. The gene keys were downloaded. There's no reason why the next energy system can't be downloaded. I think it already has been. I've talked about it on this channel. But think of all the areas in our world that need revision, that need restructuring, reinvention, new mind. They need new mind, not old mind, not like keep kids in school for 5-8 hours doing rote shit, learning stuff that they could find on ChatGPT in 2 seconds. No. They need to know how to be a human, to learn how to be a human. to learn how to be in their animal body, to love what they love, to quote Mary Oliver. So we have to dream new dreams. We have to think new thoughts. We have to be innovative. And that means being quiet in the liminal space. So making the ideal real through discipline and commitment. That's Saturn. It just needs consistency. It needs you to get disciplined. It needs you to get committed. What are you committed to? What is your mission? And then to build new systems on spiritual principles. Look, we went through Neptune and Pisces. We now know. And now here we are. Let's put it in practice. That's what Saturn says. Put it in practice. And so the challenges of this energy of the Saturn Neptune is the tension between fantasy and reality. It's the contained and the unbounded, the boundless one, containing the boundless one. And we saw religion try to do that. Religion tried to contain God, and then it went off the rails. So we're not here to try to contain evolution. We're here to try to be the conduit of it, to build enlightened institutions. It also can challenge our disillusionment, our disappointment as we meet reality, and reality doesn't want to do what we want it to do. And also the dissolution of structures that we indeed loved, that we thought were good for people. I think about USAID and how the government just gutted USAID. Well, when I was in my 20s, I worked on USAID projects, and they did phenomenal things for people in other countries. So yeah, maybe it has gotten bloated and there was graft in there, but to throw out everything feels like a colossal mistake and a shirking of our responsibility. And so I have the disillusionment of that structure. So now I get to dream a new dream about what can take its place. That's more in alignment with the age of empowerment. How do we empower people in a way that they've never been empowered before? So this is a time, friends, to orient yourself to the new through the letting go of whatever it is that shows up in your field. By the time I release this video, we will have gone through that full moon that had some fated release mechanisms in it. And we will have upcoming on the 19th of December, 3i Atlas coming close to our planet. And then we have this winter solstice and the sun squaring Saturn, and boom, there we are. We're now in the tension of the final half of December that will create new outcomes for January. And in January, movement comes, and you're going to see one by one the threshold crossing of these planets. So let's rub our hands together, gathering all this positive energy. Like, seriously, I cannot believe that we get to be alive right now. Ooh, I am humbled. I am hopeful. And let's beam out, surrounding everyone on the globe, all beings, seen and unseen, winged ones, four-legged, and the two-leggeds. And let's say out loud, may all beings benefit from the merits of our efforts.